Hello again, Elena Rusina, PSS company, and Alexander Boytsov, Bonava company. Our topic is next new step for BIM and VDC usage in housing construction, on the example of Gröna Lund. What's important here is we've already been shown several unique projects: airports, skyscrapers, communal buildings with $1 billion price tag on them. I actually did some math, and the price for a square meter is $450,000, and it's a matter of millions, and the figure just stays in my head, and I cannot unsee it. But what we'd like to show you is a more simple project. I actually did this on the calculator 3 times. But what we're talking about is our housing facility, Gröna Lund real estate area, with 100,000 square meters. There are 6 floors and a basement underneath it. We are going to talk about stage 5 and 6 of the construction cycle, and to demonstrate that what we do, almost all real estate developers can do. What were the goals? First, to ensure the quality of in design documentation and to reduce the number of errors. Second was to get the information about what we needed for budgeting and for purchases according to the goods register. And 3, to get promotion materials for sales and marketing. And for this goal, we used the services of our partner. Last January, the construction began, and the design was already lagging behind the schedule. So we asked our partners to help us. What we did was we requested an information model to be provided in such a format that we could have used it in our business processes, internal business processes. This is how these processes look like in our company in St. Petersburg. But the core of this process is information, and PSS GRAITEC was the company who provided this information to us. And I'm going to tell you how we did this. First, we did all the modeling for architecture, structures, engineering networks, electricity. Then, we used the drawings from the architectural stage with LOD 400 detailization, level of detail. So our joint model was done in Model Checker. Each building consisting of 50,000 elements. When we did the verification in Exolibri, we found out that mistake percentage was around 1%, and based on the error reports, we met with the client representatives, and we updated the model right during the meeting. We found out the best ways to locate the engineering networks, especially in the basement area, because this is the area where engineering networks were concentrated.
Based on the results, we issued the R-stage drawings, and then on the site we installed the systems using the models. So here you see the Solibri model and the real site model. So the model detailization involved volumes, QTOs, in accordance with the customer's requirements. So we loaded it to the Tela 80 classificator. So all the models were aggregated, and it included over 1,600 strings. All this was downloaded to the Excel spreadsheet and then transferred to the procurement department, and then after that the procurement, the purchasing will be done using this data. Importantly, the volumes, the quantities we received them from Excel, and we are currently switching to a new software piece, which is called Sigma Estimates, that helps us to compare the Revit data and extrapolate it to the budgeting program. It helps us. It is a two-way program, solution. It can be used by our specialists. They can alter SKUs and trademarks, and then if it is changed in one of the systems, it is reflected in Revit and then updated on the model. After the budget specialist finishes budgeting and moves all this to the entire package, this is the data for Gröna Lund. They get a final procurement data, final procurement package, and it may also be sent further using the Envalia program. In this software, there is a functionality to run a tender and select a supplier contractor. So we are currently implementing a solution that is already used by many countries. So we're currently implementing Sigma and Envalia for budgeting and procurement. And this is a pilot project that we want to finish until the end of this year. And so next year we will be able to showcase to you more of our results. We get different demonstration materials, marketing materials. There is a range of materials that we use for marketing and online, and we get them using the BIM, the digital model. First of all, we generated the Revit model, and we wanted to use this data for marketing materials in our website. We used the unit selector tool. It operates the data on the area of the flat and other parameters. It is interrelated with the CRM system, and by means of comparing data, there is a chance to put a price cat to a dedicated flat. We can automatically update information on the website using this tool, and our customers are able to see the most updated information on the price of flats. Another objective is getting the flat notes or flat leaflets. All this comes from the model. Before that, the customer used Corel Draw to draw these drawings of flats, and that was a solution that cost some money, but now we get this information from the model, and by doing this we avoid a lot of mistakes because it involves the most updated information. So the data from the designers are automatically updated and put to the drawings, to the flat drawings. So in this slide you see the view of the final flat drawings presented to customers. Using the data, we also developed materials for the website. So our customers, the visitors of our website, could see the plan of the flat and its location in the building. We generated 96 drawings to be put on the website online. Last summer, we provided documentation to the construction site, and we finalized the design process. In the middle of the last year, we also decided to organize a VIP event to present, to showcase our project to them. So there is Natalia over there in the photo from the event. We decided to use the working model, and we decided to show them to our customers. We integrated the finishing works to the model, and we added real furniture to the flats, and our customers had a chance to receive an opportunity to see the flats in reality and understand the project in detail, and the feedback was positive. We used Revit Live. The models were imported to Revit Live, and we used it to demonstrate our products. So we use this information for our sales department. We are currently testing this, and our sales department is using the pictures they get from the models in their sales process. We modeled the furniture inside the flat and also the finishing works on the walls, and we also could track the dedicated a particular flat, its location in the building. It helped us to calculate all the data related to the finishing works and get such pictures to provide an opportunity to roam inside the software. The model helps us visualize the process and get up to 30 to 70% of time savings by creating such beautiful visualizations. The furniture has real parameters, and it corresponds to Bonava packages. It's a real these are real pieces of furniture that can be bought from IKEA, for example. Such modeling helps us save a lot of time and money in producing such wonderful and beautiful pictures for our customers. Our final results helped us reduce the number of mistakes, so we reduced the number of corrections to the final project, to the construction process itself. It is good news for our subcontractors. We also have an opportunity to get specifications early, and this helps us to raise the efficiency of procurement. For example, for tenders, when you have a package that is sent for the tender to the contractor, for traditionally contractors use dedicated departments that calculate everything for the tender, and they study the documentation in detail. So by using this new approach, contractors could use fewer people to analyze the tenders. So this is a good contribution. So if you have a high-quality project and a high-quality model like this, when you send it to contractors, you have a chance to get better prices, better quotations. Contractors have a chance to compare different materials and have better understanding of the project itself and provide a better quotation. We can have a better understanding on quantities. We also get many marketing materials using the digital model. It helps us reduce the costs as well as provide visualization, which you will be able to see at the stand during the recess. So you'll be able to test it online in live mode. According to the Law 214, we are obliged and we have to provide the end product that we advertise. Now, when the product is created using various software tools, we very often face such mistakes as equipment location, as well as the location of the structural elements of the building, balconies, etc. It may lead to many problems for the construction company, contractor. And so such a process reduces the risks of meeting the regulatory requirements. In this clip, we see that 2 weeks before the IP event mentioned by Alexander, people asked us if we could provide materials for this meeting. So in just a week, using the data we had, we could create such a clip. We used a dedicated software tool for that. So in a short amount of time, we produced a real picture. Probably it's not very high quality, but the cost of producing this video was minimum, and it was a big advantage for our customer. So that's it. Thank you. Colleagues, do we have any questions? So please raise your hand, and the mic will find you. Hello, Alexander. You participate in such events very often, and of course many of us know many of your presentations. For your previous projects, I understood, and from your previous projects I understood that in your company you have a high level of implementation of the BIM. So the question is, why in this particular project you started with 2D and then you contracted with PSS to provide modeling? Oh, first of all, we've been using BIM for quite some time, but it's not an easy process that requires additional effort. For this project, we contracted a subcontractor that had to provide the modeling, but he failed, so we decided to do this work ourselves. So this is the real situation that can happen in real practice. So I would like to give advice to every one of you. So modeling for every part of the project should be a dedicated, a particular and a separate budget item, so that you can make necessary corrections. So all the parts were modeled, including electricity. So what is about electricity? What kind of modeling for electrical connections did you provide? Was it only cabling, or was it down to the cable equipment and electric equipment? Electric equipment included basic connections, sockets and lamps. As for cabling, it has not been modeled. That was a panel housing, and that is why the modeling considered the type of the building itself. I talked to many people about BIM, and some tell that it cost a lot of money to implement BIM. Some tell it was easier. But let's be honest, you need to use the technology only if it is reliable and if it is feasible. Very often cable modeling is not necessary, because you just will spend money and effort while you won't get a good result. But in terms of the project, an overall project, it does not influence that at all. So for structural elements at factories, we provide the model for all the elements. As for basements, it was not necessary to model everything, every needle. So you need to find and strike a proper balance. If it's not feasible, probably you don't have to tap into this. You probably don't have to spend much money on this if it's not feasible, and you need to understand that.
Can I have one more question? Elena, you've mentioned the classifier. What kind of classifier was it? It probably more question to Alexander, not to me. As far as I understand, this is the classifier that is used in Bonava group, so we had to use it. That was the client's requirement. It wasn't our idea, it was the client's requirement. Let me clarify. Talo 80 is a national Finnish classifier from 1980s. It's a construction classifier dating back to 1980s. We're using this in Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia and Russia. It's a very flexible, very useful classifier. And since we use it for our budgeting and our construction, we just transfer it to BIM. It's quite logical. In other countries we use different solutions, but in Russia we use this one. Yes, and Talo 80. First we were required to use up to 2 characters, and during the use we used up to 5 or 6 characters, so our detalization was more detailed. We have now some questions from online, from the internet. How do you calculate the finishing works? Do you use any additional solutions for it? This goes to Elena. Within this project, since we were quite short of time, and since the finishing was used later on in the export in Revit Live, so we didn't use any other third-party solutions, but at a later stage we realized that it's sometimes advisable to use third-party solutions to calculate it in a more efficient way and to visualize it better, because sometimes it's hard to export the information into Revit Live without losing anything. How did you connect all the external networks, utility networks, to the building, and all the engineering networks? How did you do this? So, on the layout plan, we didn't do those in BIM. We would have liked it, but we cannot find the person who would have been able to do this right and on budget. Is it a so the building, the house that you built, does it consist of panels, prefabricated panels, or not? And how do you do this? Well, our house is prefab, reinforced concrete, individually designed according to our specification. All the panels are individually designed. It's quite a big thing to do, and then we find a manufacturer who can do this for us. It's rather hard. So in this project we focused on the casing, so the design when the casing is a part of the structure, and reinforcements were also done not in Revit but externally, since we were 2 months behind. So the task was to find someone who can do the reinforcement works in BIM and on time, and we managed to do this. It was very easy to identify those who work in AutoCAD, because there were some people nodding in the audience when you were saying about Revit, speaking about Revit. Yeah, the panels were not just simply simple walls, but they all had all the parts integrated within the walls, all the joints, all the components, and we used a third-party solution that enabled us to speed this process up. So not just Revit, but with some additional attachments to it. As real estate developer, how do you motivate your suppliers to provide you their information database in a suitable format? Well, we're trying to communicate with our suppliers and we're trying to get their information, but I don't think this is a big issue these days, because in BIM-object, for instance, you can Google it and you will see lots of manufacturers and suppliers who already use this solution, so all the databases are open. But IKEA is a challenge, because I've spent a year talking to IKEA, trying to get their models, and they refused to give their models to us. So our guys had to model it themselves, for ourselves. So if we cannot find something in the open access, we do it ourselves. Did you do the vertical plans? No, not yet. We bought Civil 3D 2 years ago, but we trained people, but we failed to use it. Too much to do, too little time. But we won't give up. We will persevere, but step after step. Thanks. Again, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end of today's event. Let's give the round of applause to the speaker.